told the people at Edelweiss this for 2 years, where I said, look, you have a sweet thing going on. It's yours to screw up. Nobody's trying to come in on this because you have a really good grasp. But the minute that, you raise your prices too much or reduce your services too much, people are going to flee and come in on this. And, and I got obviously a lot of corporate speak that's like, we have never discouraged competition or, and you're like, oh, really? Hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Elly Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we welcome back Jane Friedman of The Bottom Line to demystify yet another hot topic in publishing. And this week we have a particularly newsy item, which is the rate hikes on Edelweiss, which has been, kind of hitting the public. Mm-hmm. And we're going to reverse our roles this time, where Jane will be the one asking hard-hitting questions instead of being asked hard-hitting questions.
Yes, because Edelweiss didn't really exist when I was working at a traditional publisher. If it did, we didn't use it for whatever reason. And so I only came to it myself as just an industry person looking at what publishers were posting there. For those who don't know what it is, anyone can create an account. You don't have to be a publisher. Accounts are free if you're not a publisher uploading things. And so it's a really great way for people to, like the industry, to see what's coming out from publishers, and like it has like the marketing plans and comp titles. I actually recommend it for writers frequently as a way to research what's happening with their comps or with certain publishers. It's useful. But, I have noticed in the last couple of weeks this outcry from publishers about the increased fees. And it seems like it's right in line with the sale of the company to this other firm who's maybe trying to squeeze it for more juice. And it's not clear to me, like, just how onerous these fee hikes are. So I'd love to hear from you, Joe, about if you think the complaints are just normal, publishers will always complain about increased fees, or if there's something going on here that's a little bit more nefarious.
There are nefarious things afoot, as there usually are. When, I don't know, yeah, I guess you're right. When there's smoke, there's not always fire. There's sometimes just a smoke machine.
Or someone's
But in this case, yeah, there's sort of like a trifecta, So I guess I would start at where we sent them some things that we wanted the platform to do, just like some basic service requests where, things like it's really labor intensive to upload images, whereas like we built software where you just like drag and drop all your images, they upload, you save. And Edelweiss has a lot of like weird UI, UX problems where it's very unclear if you are saving the page that you have just spent time on or not, or if you are losing all of your progress, and it doesn't really say, hey, be careful, you're about to lose all of your work.
Can I just interject here as a user, like not a publisher, but just someone who uses it? The site looks terrible. Like it looks like it was designed 20 years ago and never brought up to today's standards. So I just wanted to say that.
That's probably what happened. I think, wasn't it built in like 2002 or something by someone who was teaching himself to code? I don't know.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
But so they, we've been asking for these fixes for 7 years, and every year they're like, oh, well, it's on the list, we're getting to it. And then it's like every year the rate goes up. And, and every year we've had a little bit of back and forth where we're like, well, what are the new services that justify this rate increase? And every year they're like, oh, well, we did these 3 new things. But this year, the company has changed ownership, as you mentioned. And allegedly, I don't have access to their payroll, but allegedly they have dumped quite a bit of coders and engineers, and that this is part of the problem. So like, we're not getting any of those improvements, and this is the first time where the rate hike is substantial. I think it would have been tripled for us.
Wow.
And there was no conversating. It was basically just like, and the poor person they put on this communication game, she was not a great salesperson, and like multiple meetings, trying to get basic information, trying to understand, because it's not just that they increased the rates by, triple. It's that the way the service works is now different.
Okay.
Yeah, the way the rates are calculated is different and completely opaque.
And it's not just that, it's that we needed to understand how you calculate it so we could plan our front list and we could plan our usage of the service. Because if we said this book comes out tomorrow and we uploaded it on Edelweiss today, that would cost us $90. Whereas if we scheduled it for yesterday, it would be free. But their ability to explain this was so, convoluted is not even the right word. They were incapable of explaining how this worked. And so that just consumed hours, literally, of back and forth, where we said, how do we know what you are gauging? Because they had flagged 10 titles as front list titles that were backlist titles. And we said, well, none of those are front lists, so clearly something's wrong. And finally, they moved that person out of sales and gave us somebody that is better at answering questions, but, is not great at, when we say, okay, you've outlined our a la carte options, we want this one. And then they came back and were like, oh, no, we can't do that.
They were like, you already made your choice.
What?
Yeah. They were like, we already have an agreement. And we were like, we do not, in fact, have any agreement.
Our industry is run by billionaires and conglomerates.
At Microcosm, we wanted the freedom to independently sell our books, easily pay royalties, manage our inventory, and understand our business all in one place.
That's why we've been using our own software since 2001.
Now, we want to share it with you.
Working Lit is the only business success software that is created and owned 100% by publishers for publishers.
Join Working Lit and get the agency you need to help your business grow.
Visit workinglit.com to try it for free. There's no contract, so you don't have written terms.
And there's no rate sheet.
There's no, yeah, and so it's like, and because they're really acting like the monopoly that they've become. And so you cannot get, how does it work? What are you agreeing to in return for this money?
Mm-hmm.
What is the, and they have a weird October to October year, which is not the weirdest, but in publishing, it's kind of weird just because of how the schedules work.
Right.
And, all that, but they don't really explain any of that up front. It's just, your new cost is X. And the justification was that they were trying to level the playing field price-wise. But then you find out that any publisher larger than a certain size is getting discounting. So they are, in fact, not doing that. So I would say any gripes are very justified. It's affecting the smallest publishers the most. And, I was comforted to learn that a few people had turned tail and fled, even at the point when we were like, okay, well, maybe we'll give it another year. That we are usually the ones with the least resolve around a bad situation.
Yes.
Yeah, and even our trade reps, who are honestly the ones that rely on Edelweiss the most to sell to bookstores. It's how all bookstores buy now and how they interface with them. And they were like, you have our blessing to stop using this service.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, that really surprised us.
And that was the thing is so even 7 years ago, reps would give us catalog counts per rep, so they would say send 50 to Cincinnati and send 200 to Minneapolis and send 150 to, Detroit or whatever. And then it got to the point where those numbers were going down every single season. And then it finally got to the point during the pandemic where they were like, well, I guess you can send me 10 if you want. But really, I don't know. Nobody really wants the catalog anymore because, and I think it's a lot of it is, the way those meetings were happening. But so there was a transition, and I think Edelweiss is savvy to this.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, so that's part of the publishing has finally entered the 20th century, which I guess is the good news. But the downside of that is there wasn't another company, though now there is quite a bit of rumor about competition. So that's good.
Well, yeah, that's the situation seems to invite someone to create a better, more efficient, cost-effective solution. To give folks an understanding, how much would you potentially spend in a year with Edelweiss before and after this latest price change?
So it would depend on the size of the publisher. When we came on with them, it was about $250 a month. And that
seemed like a lot at the time.
Yeah, and I did the math, and I'm like, that's literally more than we would spend on catalogs and mail in a year.
Yeah,
it would have been cheaper just to print and mail catalogs, and honestly, you get more out of that because you can measure that a bit more. Whereas with Edelweiss, who knows what's happening?
Yeah,
but it's like essential, so you have to, and so. Then it went up, I don't know, I want to say like at least 4% to 10% every year until the part where that had more than doubled. And then now they're trying to triple it again. So I would guess for a big 5, it would be into the millions.
That's kind of hard to fathom. I mean, it's
before discounting, but yeah.
Yeah. And so you're still with them for the next year, did you say? Or are you
come to terms yet?
Yeah, we're still in limbo. Like we're getting ready to like announce our fall 2026 list, and we're like, are we putting it on Edelweiss or not? We're like getting things lined up with our distribution clients, having to talk to them every week, being like, here's the current status. They're not responding to our email substantively. We don't know what's happening.
You're right, and that's the other problem. And it's hard to say again. And then, obviously, like Publishers Weekly did a article about it, and obviously, to look at it that way, everybody was upset. But I mean, it's interesting to think that it's like booksellers and publishers that are upset, and so you would think that would have some kind of positive result. But yeah, it's hard. And, but so I'm quoted in this article while we're 3 months into this negotiation and still unresolved. To their credit, I would like to compliment the person in receivables there did apologize to me about the situation. But is the only one to date because everybody else is kind of just doing the hard push.
Wow. Do you feel like your business would be negatively affected if you just decided to stop using it?
I don't think so, but
I think it would in the short term.
I think it's more of like we have always done best when we buck the trend. Like we always do best when we do it wrong. So again, I think we are not the case study here. But I think we are that way because everybody else refuses to do that.
Yeah, I guess like 13 to 15% of our business is directly to bookstores. And then I don't know if bookstores use Edelweiss to shop for what they're going to buy through Ingram. I have no idea.
They probably use iPage or what have you. Yeah.
And anyway, it would potentially hit that, but also we could potentially like start printing boring catalogs again for each season and mail them to bookstores. That might have better results. We don't know. We could have a big screed about Edelweiss and how to order from us on the cover. I don't know.
and so it's the harder to quantify part of it is the brilliance of their business model is nobody knows what it actually is doing or not. Like couldn't really say, you can't, there's no way to track KPIs to Edelweiss. We built this software from scratch to solve our own problems starting in 2001.
It's not only the reason for our survival, but the reason we've been a Publishers Weekly fastest growing publisher 3 years in a row.
Now we want to share it with you.
Join Working Lit and get back the agency to understand your publishing business, market and sell your books, and painlessly pay royalties.
Working Lit. Doing the math for publishers.
Visit workinglit.com to give it a try for free. Edelweiss does a lot of things, and I think part of why it's so chaotic seeming to use it is that they are kind of doing a lot of things for a lot of people. Like they're cataloging soft for like publishers to sell to bookstores. They're like a social media site for booksellers to talk about books. They're an digital ARC distribution service, which is like a whole other thing. So it does seem like a lot of those functions could be split off piecemeal.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, just the discoverability platform seems so basic. I mean, and it's really fascinating because that's what Asterism has already built, is essentially a discovery platform that splits off the orders directly to the publishers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's all that really is needed here.
But like more people are going to Fair, more and more bookstores are going to Fair and ordering on Fair, not on Edelweiss. That's the other thing. Like I need to look into like that a little bit more in our data, because like we're like, oh, looking at this percentage of the market that probably orders through Edelweiss. In reality, up to half of them might order through Fair now.
So what's Fair for those who might not have heard about that?
Fair is the platform that displaced essentially the gift portion of the industry, where it used to be that you would go to markets and browse what I would call the mall for malls, where you look at all the showrooms and then you buy lines based on that. And then Fair came in, and it's basically a discoverability platform like Edelweiss, but it's complete point-to-point B2B software. So it's not only marketing and discoverability, they split off orders. They are a shipping software. They are a payment processing software. It's really the next level of what Edelweiss should have gone into, rather than just a discoverability platform. And so for a lot of booksellers, and Microcosm has had this too, since the late 90s, we would have customers that would go on our website, midnight on a Friday, and they would put in their order and then make their order, maybe like have a drink. And then we wake up on Saturday and there's like orders in our system. And we're like, didn't see that coming, that would be how people would use the B2B website. But then Fair is that to a huge degree for all kinds of product lines. And, earrings and candles and things like that are their bread and butter. Publishing is way down the list.
Okay. But it's growing. Now the majors are on there. It took them years and years to get on there. But I do want to put out an appeal to any booksellers that are listening. If you buy through Fair from a publisher, please, please, please get that publisher's direct Fair link, so that so that Fair doesn't take 15% of your sales to them.
The downside of Fair is that, the sales reps hate it because it is essentially Amazon, but it is predatory on the other end. It's predatory towards salespeople.
Yeah.
And it has completely changed the gift sales market, because it now controls the vast majority of what used to be a multi-billion-dollar industry, not exaggerating.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's put a lot of those salespeople out of work.
The gift shows are ghost towns now that all went to Fair.
Wow. I had no idea about this. It's fascinating.
I feel like this could be a whole other episode.
and so, the book sales people have been cautioning us, because they're saying at some point this is going to change. At some point these are not going to be favorable terms for you either. What Fair did do, to their credit, is they made it so we can put accounts to a trade sales rep, so that the salesperson does get paid rather than Fair.
But only if those accounts are not or didn't already start ordering directly through Fair without.
We have to
including us.
show the causation of that marketing.
Okay.
And, and that's an interesting thing, but, and a lot of bookstores have taken ordering through Fair because they're like, this is how it should have been 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't have had to write an order and send it to a sales rep and then wait for them to process it and then wait for the publisher to process it.
Yeah.
Wow, that went places.
It did, but that's where
Joe, what do you predict will happen in the future?
I
What's
predict
next?
there will be a competitor, and I predict that there will be sort of a multi-platform situation where it'll kind of bust up because it won't work quite so well with multiple platforms, because then you have to check, is this publisher here? Oh no, they're over here.
Are they using Book Manager? Are they using Fair? Are they using Edelweiss? Yeah.
What a mess. Ugh.
That will be, I think, like that company Uline, they love to cite all these studies about how people actually do best ordering from paper catalogs. And I think it will actually result in that, is my prediction.
Maybe it'll bring trade show sales back.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm.
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.